So our last hand is going to be an interesting higher stakes. It's a heads-up sit and go hand. We have Collin 252, 1L, and hero is the small blind with king 10 off. Blinds are 100, 200. And so generally under 25 blinds in a heads-up sit and go, we're mainly going to stick to min raises on the button to avoid having to risk all that much versus players who 3-bet a lot, since we're obviously going to be 3-bet folding a decent amount of the time. And Villain, essentially, he doesn't min raise, so the min raise would be a bit over 600, but he 2x 3-bets, so he 3-bets very small. The conventional sit and go wisdom at this stack depth is often to shove or fold, but he makes a small 3-bet. So the question is, how do we interpret that, and what do we do? And if we know that he's very tight passive, I would just fold, because if we put him on a very tight range, and even if we flop a top pair type hand, we're not necessarily going to be happy getting it in. If he is pretty loose or spewy, then getting 3-1, it's certainly reasonable to go ahead and take a flop, which is what hero does, and the other alternative would be to just go ahead and 4-bet shove. But I like this. We're getting 3-1 in position, so if we don't really have a read and we think he may be doing this wide, which we'll see that he is, to just flat is fine. Flop comes deuce 10-3. He min bets. Now again, our read is going to be very important. Against a weaker recreational player, this is usually going to indicate heavy weakness, whereas betting a quarter of a pot on a moderately coordinated flop like this, whereas against a good player, it could be that they're getting tricky. But we're really not going to ever fold at this stack depth. So the pot at this point is 2,000, and the effective remaining stack is going to be a bit over 3,000. So the pot's huge compared to the effective remaining stack. We have top pair and a decent kicker. So I like just raising now, but the sizing is a bit large. So essentially, we're only going to be getting action from decent hands that are willing to put it in, because he's not going to think that he has much fold equity. You know, we have a bit over 3,000 at this point going into the flop. We're raising to 1,700. So I like making it a little bit smaller if we're not just going to shove, so maybe he thinks he has some fold equity on a 3-bet shove. Now, one of the interesting things about this hand is that Villain shows down with bottom 2, with 3 deuce off. And unless we're up against an opponent who's folding a lot, 2 small 3-bets, then to me this is pretty much just a spew. Against weak opponents you can walk over, or against players who, as others in the thread point out, are only going to 4-bet or fold, because we're risking 600 to win the 600 that's out there, approximately. So if he only 4-bets or folds and 4-bets under 50%, we're going to show a profit. But against a decent reg who's going to flat here a reasonable amount of the time, I don't see any reason to make a play like this with a hand that has no post-flop playability.